Hello, Megan here with the next installment of my migraine sort of diary, vlog, whatever you want to call it. So a few things have happened since last time that I posted. Where to start? I actually do have a little bit of a list here I'm going to consult on. Okay, so basically one of the biggest things that has happened since my last video is that I have started seeing a naturopath, which I maybe mentioned in some of my previous videos. But let's just do kind of a quick recap on where we're at right now. So I had gone to some NUCA chiropractic and had some adjustments done on my neck area. I have made the decision to, I believe, stop going to chiropractic. It was never really something that I thought was the cause of my migraines, even from the get-go. And I haven't really noticed any changes at all, good or bad. I know it's a short time frame, sort of a short test time frame, so to speak. And probably some of you have had great results with chiropractic because that might be sort of the underlying cause of your migraines. But I never really thought that that's what it was. But I was in the business of checking things off my list. So I thought I'll go and see what happens and see what a chiropractic doctor might have to say about my neck and my back and all that kind of good stuff. So even right from the get-go, the chiropractor himself wasn't confident that my migraines were being caused by anything in my sort of neck and spine. But we went ahead and did, like I said, a couple adjustments anyway, because they are expensive, and this whole venture that I'm on has been very expensive. I'm kind of at the point where I have to sort of decide what I want to include in my personal treatment plan. And chiropractic, unfortunately, is not going to make the cut. Like I said, I didn't have any negative results from it, but I didn't really have any positive results either. And just after speaking with the chiropractor and sort of his professional opinion on the health of my spine and my neck, I was kind of in good shape. So he didn't really even think that that would be a cause, because typically if somebody is getting migraines from something skeletal or in your spine, there's usually some sort of underlying trauma that has happened to you, whether it's a car accident or something like that. And also there will be typically some residual pain when they sort of poke in certain spots in your neck and your back, none of which I had. So yeah, so that's the first thing that I've done, is I've kind of made the decision to eliminate chiropractic from my treatment plan. He was a wonderful doctor, super great guy, easy to talk to, nothing personal about chiropractic or the doctor in general. Just need to move on to other things. So a quick recap of my migraine history is in order right now, just so that you can kind of follow along with my thought process for the next little chunk of the video. So started getting migraines basically right when I hit puberty, kind of like 12, 13, maybe even a little bit younger than that. Always had the aura right from the get-go. And then since then, I'm 33 now, for reference. And since then, my migraines have kind of been a bit cyclical, we'll say. So I'll go through periods of like 6 months to a year where I wouldn't have any migraines, which was awesome. And then I would definitely have sort of troublesome clumps of migraines where I would get, you know, the standard sort of cluster type migraine, where they would be all day after day after day after day after day for multiple days, sometimes like more than a week at a time. Some of those at that point in time, I'm convinced, were rebound headaches due to the fact that at that point in time, when I was younger and sort of growing up throughout my life, I didn't have such a distaste for medications, prescribed medications. So I was taking a lot more stuff, a lot more preventatives, a lot more abortives, and was definitely suffering with what the doctor told me was pretty severe rebound headaches, which I know a lot of y'all are quite familiar with. So we won't get into basically what those are, but, so like I said, had periods of both good and bad, since I started getting migraines at 13. And then about 6 months ago, entered into what appeared to be another sort of bad clump of migraines. So not only were they more frequent, but they were also more severe as well. So definitely more along the hemiplegic style of migraine. So I definitely always got the aura, but accompanying with the sort of regular visual aura, I would get super crazy, like limb numbness, whole, like completely half of my face, depending on which side the aura was on, would go completely numb. I'd get almost like the droopy lip thing, like sort of quasi stroke symptoms. I was always reassured by various doctors and neurologists that I was not having a stroke. That's not what was happening, but the symptoms are stroke-like, as I know a lot of you out there can appreciate. So yeah, like I said, kind of have re-entered into a bit of a clump. So something had changed, in other words, whether it was something I was doing, whether it was something environmental, something had changed to kind of cause this, as I'm assuming in the past, again, something had changed preceding those sort of periods of really intense migraines, lots of migraines, whatever. So that was what I wanted to figure out was it something I'm doing in my life, or is it an external factor that I can't necessarily control, like weather or something like that? It never really occurred to me, and this may sound kind of stupid, but it never really occurred to me that hormones may be my issue, because I think it would have stood out to me if I really would have always suffered with menstrual migraines. In other words, migraines that really sort of circle around your time of the month if you're a lady. I would get migraines. If I was in a bad spell, I would get them at all points throughout my cycle. It didn't really matter at what point in my cycle I was at. So it never really occurred to me that that's what it could be. But as I said, I've kind of gone through this process of elimination, and I've been doing a ton of research, and I know that hormones is something that I've never really looked into or investigated in terms of my migraines. So that's kind of a little recap on sort of my migraine history and where I'm at right now. So moving along from that, my next sort of plan of attack was to see a naturopath. Have mixed feelings always on naturopaths. I definitely would always prefer to do things sort of the healthy, natural, no like pharmaceutical route. But unfortunately, there's a lot of quacks out there that parade around as being true naturopathic doctors, even if they have the little ND after their name. I've still dealt with some wacky ones. I won't name names, but I have seen a few naturopaths over the course of my lifetime. The most recent one was a gentleman here in Kelowna, where I'm from, and he was wonderful. I had a great visit with him. This was probably about 7 years ago. And at that point in time, I went through all the same sort of tests, testing all my vitamin levels and all that kind of good stuff. And in the end, what he prescribed me, and again, I'm not bashing it because some people may have had really great success with these, but for me, it seemed a bit hokey. So that was colored glasses. So there is some research out there that migraines can be caused by obviously light and sort of different colors of light entering into our eyes. And so he had prescribed me with a very specific shade of colored glasses. I don't even remember what the color was. I feel like they're pink, but maybe I just want them to be pink because I like pink. I never purchased the glasses, so I can't say definitively whether they would have worked for me or not. But in my gut, I don't know. It just didn't seem right. So it didn't seem like something that would help me. And they were also ridiculously expensive at the time. And I was a student, and it just wasn't happening for me. So I never ended up purchasing those. But nothing else really came out of that in terms of like my diet or my own general health or things that I should be changing in my lifestyle. And so I stopped going. I only went the once and just had one consultation with him. Wasn't impressed. Didn't get a good feeling from him. Never went back. So that aside, I wanted to see another naturopath here in Kelowna again. So I made an appointment at the Mission Naturopathic Clinic. That's pretty much 2 blocks from my house, which is super convenient. And the way they do their intake is there's actually two appointments that you go to. So the first is basically like a data collection appointment, which was with kind of what I would describe as like a dietitian type gal. She was lovely and young and looked super healthy and awesome. So had an appointment with her. In that appointment, they did a urinalysis. They took some blood as well, mostly just for glucose testing as well and hemoglobin testing. And then they tested me with the Vega machine. So Vega testing is something that I have had done in the past. It's borderline hocus pocus for me. There is lots of research online. So if you're interested in reading both the good, the bad, and the ugly about Vega testing, I highly suggest you go online and just read as much as you can. Try not to read like the first or two articles because it might kind of skew your perspective of it. But basically, the best way I can describe Vega testing is it's meant to deal with your sort of own electrical rhythms in your body and then test for imbalances in certain areas. So basically the way it works is with your left hand, you hold on to a little sort of metal rod, and then the practitioner of the exam will poke in an acupuncture point on your finger with another little piece of metal, not like a needle, no skin breaking, but we'll just sort of touch there. And then they'll establish sort of your natural body sort of electrical rhythms, whatever you want to call it. And then one by one, they will insert samples of whether it's like a vitamin or a protein or a body organ or something like that in a dish in between basically the rod that she's poking on my finger with and the rod that I'm holding with my other hand. And it will basically help the naturopath to fine tune their sort of readings. So what came out of that initial consultation was my iron is good, so and my hemoglobin, all of that is excellent. Pretty much all of my proteins were good, which is great. All of my vitamin levels were pretty good too. I had a slightly elevated white blood cell count that came out of the urinalysis, and then I was supposed to be going to come back and